This is the full 2024/2025 rod and reel arsenal video. Hello and welcome. What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be showing you every single rod and reel that is in my current rotation. The full lineup, everything that I'm currently using to bass fish, from finesse to big heavy swim baits, the entire heater series plus one-offs, and I'm not going to waste any time. We got a lot to cover in this video. It's probably going to be a long one, so I'm just going to jump right into it. But really quickly, I want to say I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. I meant to get this video out before 2024 ended, but with the holidays, with holiday travel, and everything that's been going on, I just wasn't able to knock it out. I knew I had to dedicate almost a full day to getting this set up and done. So here we are. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2025. This is the full 2024/2025 rod and reel arsenal video. The first rod that I'm going to talk about and show you guys is the Clunn signature. I actually did a full feature on this, one video back here on the channel. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I'm not going to spend too much time on this rod. We covered all the bases in that video. Also, the amount of people that were upset at that video, the amount of hate that I got from grown men crying on the internet in the comments section on that video was just crazy. But that comes with the territory here on YouTube. I'm not going to let it slow me down. And to kick things off, we're going to talk about the rod that generated all of those hate comments, the Clunn signature from 6th Sense. It's a 7.7 heavy fast rod. This is the one rod that I have not had an opportunity to fish with, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's designed for everything from heavy jig fishing to throwing big crankbaits like this. I've got it paired up with the Shimano Bantam 7.1 on the gear ratio. One of the nicest reels that I own, and probably the nicest, highest end setup in my entire arsenal, and something that showed up the other day that goes along with the Clunn signature. If you happen to pick one up, you're going to get a certificate of authenticity signed by Clunn himself, and this sick red, white, and blue rod sleeve to protect your Clunn signature rod. So check out my last video if you want to know more about this one. Like I said, haven't had a chance to fish with this one yet, but I can already tell I'm going to have a lot of fun out there on the water with this one. But let's keep it rolling. We have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to try to move quickly. Let's get into the first batch here. I've got 5 rods in front of me that I'm going to talk about first. I'm going to mention that all the rods that you're going to see in this video are 6th Sense rods, and all the reels that you're going to see in this video are from Shimano. So with that out of the way, I'm going to talk about the first and most used rod out of the entire heater series lineup. The heater series is my signature line of rods that I created with 6th Sense. And the 6.9 medium moderate is the one that I use the most, hands down, for a multitude of techniques. And we're going to go through them all right here. Like I said, I have 5 right here in front of me, and I can cover a wide range of techniques with this rod. And don't let its shorter length and lighter power confuse you. This thing is a powerhouse. It can do the heavy lifting, and I've caught so many giant fish on this rod. It's never given me a bit of trouble. I've never broken one. The 6.9 medium moderate, I don't hesitate to throw this at the giants, and I'm confident that when I hook into one, I'm going to be able to get it to the boat with this. The 6.9 medium moderate heater series I use for everything from small square bills like this right here. The first one that I'm showing you, I have a PD4 tied on. It's paired up with the Shimano Curado 70 HG. I really love the 70 size reels for throwing the lighter stuff. If I'm fishing up shallow and I don't need to make long bomber casts, if I don't need to get access to deeper water, the 70 size spool does great for me. I love the Curado 70. It's one of my favorite reels from Shimano. This one is a 7.4-1. That right there is the first square bill setup in the 6.9 group that I have right here. I also have another one right here. I love throwing square bills. I got a couple of them rigged up so that I can have a couple different colors and a couple different types of baits ready at all times. This one is paired up with a Shimano SLX 70 MGL. Also love this reel. 6.3-1 on the gear ratio here. 70 size spool once again. That's another PD4 from the Pressure series in that matte natural couple videos back. We caught a dragon on this sucker right here. Now, when it comes to square bills, I also love throwing the Crush 50 on the 6.9. You know, the smaller 50 size square bills like that right there. I also throw the Curve Finesse. Also does really well with the PD7. That's like a mid diver. And the Curve 55. The 6.9, I throw a multitude of hard baits, smaller crankbaits specifically, and I use those 2 setups that I just showed you to do it. But moving on, you guys know that I love throwing a soft plastic jerkbait, and the 6.9 medium moderate is what I use to throw the flush or the fluke weightless all the time. 15-pound fluorocarbon, and that's another Shimano SLX MGL 70. This one is a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio. I like a little bit faster of a gear ratio for throwing the weightless fluke. That right there is a setup that never changes. That stays how it is, and I have this at the ready year round, 365 days out of the year. But wait, there's more. It's a lot more, actually. I also use it for throwing the jerkbait. This right here is my jerkbait setup. Another 6'9" medium moderate paired up with the Shimano SLX DC 7.2 to 1 gear ratio, 15-pound fluorocarbon. And this is a Provoke 97 DD deep diving jerkbait, hard jerkbait. Caught a ton of fish on this setup, caught some big fish on this setup. I love the DC reel for throwing the jerkbait for whatever reason. That's just what I prefer there. But I also use it for top water walking style baits like the Catwalk or the Dogma 100, the old pencil. I have it rigged up with straight 50-pound braid on a Shimano Curado 200 HG 7.4 to 1 on the gear ratio. I'll also use this for like the little popper, like a popper style bait, Splashback 70, the old Pop R. Excellent setup for that. That's 5 6'9" medium moderate heaters that I always have laced up at the ready, and I have plans to add more to the lineup. Now, I mentioned that every rod in the lineup is a 6 cents rod, and that's true with the exception of one. You guys stick around and watch to the end of the video if you want to see the one rod out of the entire lineup that's not from 6 cents. But let's keep it rolling. All right, next up in the lineup, the 7.4 medium heavy mod fast heater series swim jig rod. I'm going to move through the rods, not necessarily in order from lightest to heaviest or anything like that. I'm sort of going from the ones that I use the most often, that I have the most of, all the way through up until we get to the one-offs, and then we're going to get into like spinning gear and big heavy swim bait setups. I know you guys are excited to see the big rigs, the swim bait stuff, so stick around, it's coming. But the heater series swim jig rod, 7.4 medium heavy mod fast, a little bit longer, a little more parabolic. I designed this rod specifically for throwing a swim jig. If you've been around here on my channel, you know that I love throwing a swim jig. It's one of the baits that I have the highest confidence in. This Divine swim jig like this right here, the 7.4 medium heavy mod fast heater. I have this one here specifically paired up with a Metanium, Shimano Metanium 7.1 to 1, 15-pound fluorocarbon. Once again, this is another one of my nicer setups. This is probably the nicest reel that I own, the Metanium, super high end. I only have one of these, and this right here is my #1 swim jig setup, but I use this rod for a lot more than just swim jigs. When I was designing the heater series, I wanted it to be versatile so that it could cover a wide range of techniques, and I definitely use this for a lot of stuff, just like the 6.9. So in addition to the swim jig, I also use it for like single swimmer type stuff, a little bit larger profile, 3/8 and above. This is another 7.4 medium heavy mod fast, but this one is actually the prototype. This is the first one that I ever had. As you can see, the design, the graphics on it are way different than the final version. And I've got the line through treble head paired up with a Whale 4.0 right now. Another Shimano Curado 200. This one's 6.2 to 1 on the gear ratio, just for when I want something that moves a little bit slower. I also have it rigged up with an axle swinging swim jig with another Whale, just single swimmer style bait on a 7.4 to 1 gear ratio, Shimano Curado 70 HG. Now, honestly, this isn't necessarily the first bait that I would use this setup for. What I like using the 70 HG for, and I have another one right here to show you, is lighter Texas rig setups like this right here. Little 1/4 ounce weight, a Buso ribbon tail worm, pegged, EWG style hook, Shimano Curado 70 and that 7.4 to 1 gear ratio, a little bit faster. This right here is my lighter Texas rig setup. The 70 size spool is plenty for me as long as I don't have to access super deep water when I'm dragging a Texas rig around shallow to mid depth. This is my setup. I love the castability and the light feel of the 70 HG paired up with that 7.4 medium heavy mod fast heater. It's a killer. I also use this same setup for throwing baits like the smaller Trace. This is the 5-inch Trace multi-joint swim bait. Again, 7.4 medium heavy mod fast heater. One of the most used, if not the most, right up there with the 6.9 used rod on my boat. Like, these are the two that I gravitate to the most. This right here is actually a Curado M 200 HG 7.4 to 1 on the gear ratio. It's a 17-pound fluorocarbon on here. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have one Curado M, which replaced the Curado K. I have a bunch of Curado 200Ks that you're gonna see in this video. And for whatever reason, I still like the original Corrado K better than the M. I know this is the updated version, the upgraded version. It has the MGL spool. It has the better technology. It has the upgraded components on the inside. But for me, I just like the 200 better. I don't know what it is. I've heard other people say the same thing. I've heard people say the opposite. But the Corrado M paired up with the 7.4 medium heavy mod fast heater and that 5-inch trace, killer little small multi-jointed swim bait setup. And those are the 5 7.4s that I have on the boat at all times at the ready. And those are a few of the techniques that I like to use them for. They're really versatile. You can use these for heavier chatterbaits and multiple other techniques as well, but these are the ones that I tend to gravitate to. And like I said, we have a lot to talk about in this video. If you have any specific questions for me on baits, rods, techniques, drop them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer those, but we got to keep it moving in this one because we got a lot of rods stacked up back here that we need to talk about. There's one more look at that prototype heater right there with the blue flames. Sick. Corrado 200. Can't beat it. There's one more up close and look at that Metanium on that swim jig heater. Also, this right here, the Pro Green Devon swim jig, my favorite swim jig ever. Caught a previous PB 9.5 pounds on that bait, and they will not be bringing this back after whatever's in stock right now sells out. This one's going away for forever, so I suggest you pick up the Pro Green Devon swim jig if you want to have some in your tackle box. Just don't forget to punch in that JR10 for the win when you check out and save 10% off your entire order on 6centsfishing.com. Let's keep it rolling. Next up, I got 4 more right here for you. This one is the 7.2 medium heavy mod fast heater series. This is my ChatterBait heater, designed specifically for throwing a bladed jig. A little bit shorter on the length, but still has that parabolic bend to it. It's gonna load up a little bit deeper into the blank. I like a more parabolic rod. That's why I designed the heater series like I did. Moderate action, loads up deep, great for moving baits, great for treble baits. And the jackhammer is like my favorite bait to throw on this rod right here. 7.2 medium heavy mod fast heater, SLX MGL 70, 6.3 to 1 on the gear ratio, 17-pound fluorocarbon. My jackhammer slash bladed jig ChatterBait heater right there. But I also like to use it for finesse jigs and finesse swim jigs. So I have the Conda finesse swim jig tied onto this 7.2 right here. And that's another Shimano Corrado 200 in a 6.2 to 1. A little bit slower on the gear ratio for the chatterbaits and the swim jigs. I like a 6 to 1 for those. I also use this for throwing spinner baits. Again, 6 to 1, Corrado 200, 7.2 medium heavy mod fast. That's the spinnerbait heater, as well as the bladed jig heater. And one other thing that I like to do with this rod is throwing the finesse jig. So I have a finesse jig tied onto this one, 70 size spool, SLX MGL, 7.2 medium heavy mod fast. Most of the time I will have another bladed jig option on here, but the finesse jig pairs up really well with the 7.2. So that's what I have tied on right now. But 7.2 medium heavy mod fast, that's the ChatterBait banger, no doubt. Pair that up with a 70 size reel from Shimano in a 6 to 1 gear ratio, and that's just where it's at for the ChatterBait. But as mentioned, I will throw the spinner baits on this setup a lot. And another bait that pairs up really well with the 7.2 is the Crush 100. A little bit bigger, heavier square bill, and that 7.2 pairs up great. And that bluegill fire color right there is fire. But let's keep it rocking. That's the 4 7.2s that I have set up, all paired up with 6 to 1 gear ratio reels, I believe. Yeah, 6.2 to 1, 6.3 to 1, 6.3 to 1, 6.2 to 1. 70 MGLs and Corrado 200s in 6 to 1s for the ChatterBait heaters. 7.2 medium heavy mod fast. Probably my 3rd most used rod out of my entire lineup. But let's keep it rolling. Whew! We're rocking and rolling here. We're moving along pretty quick, but there's still a ton of stuff over here to look at. Strike that, reverse it. I missed one. So the 5th 7.2 medium heavy mod fast heater. And I know what you're thinking. I can hear you typing it in the comments right now. You don't need that many rods and reels. You don't need that many setups. That's overkill. Well, I'm from Texas and overkill is underkill. And I will say that you're absolutely right. You do not need all of these. You could get one of each of these rods and you could cover practically every base that there is to cover. But I've worked extremely hard to acquire all this gear. I fish all the time, and having multiple rods for multiple different techniques at the ready at all times can save you a lot of time on the water. So over the years, as I've been doing this more and more, I have gradually accumulated more setups so that I could cover my bases. So I'm not saying that this is necessary. This is absolutely not necessary. This is what it looks like inside the mind of a madman when you just love it and you go all in and you dump everything that you have into your gear and your equipment to make sure that you can be successful on the water, this is where you can end up. But it's absolutely not needed, not necessary. You could grab a couple of these heaters and cover just about everything that you need to cover. That being said, I do have a lot of rods, a lot of reels, and I'm going to talk to you about every single one of them right now. If that upsets you, I do not apologize. Just click off the video and go watch something else. This right here is my last 7.2 medium heavy mod fast, and I have it paired up with one of my favorite baits to throw lately, something I've been putting a lot of time in with. It's the smaller profile treble head line through with a little whale swim bait. This thing right here is super deadly. I've been catching so many fish on this. I have it paired up with an SLX DC 6.3 to 1 on the gear ratio, 15 pound, or that might be 17 pound fluorocarbon, 15 or 17. I hover in that 12 to 17 pound range for the most part, unless I get up into like the heavy stuff, and then I'll go, 20, 25 if needed. But most of these are going to be in that 12 to 17 pound test range. As far as the line goes, I fish with 100% fluorocarbon most of the time, and Vizex. People ask me all the time, Seaguar and Vizex is the fluorocarbon that I prefer, does well for me, and 15 and 17 are probably my two most used. SLX DC 6.3 to 1, single swimmer style bait, treble head line through with a smaller profile whale. This is the 1/4 ounce treble head, and it pairs up perfectly with that 7.2 medium heavy mod fast heater. Let's start getting off into some like one-offs and a little bit different type stuff here. I'll talk really quickly about this one. This is one that I've had probably the longest before I ever was blessed to be able to create the heater series. I was fishing with a lot of the sensory series rods. This is the 7.2 medium sensory series. This is another SLX 70, but this one's a DC 6.3 to 1. And I have the Curve 55 medium diver crankbait tied onto this. I like this setup for throwing the Curve 55, so I always have it around just as like a backup for the hard baits in that depth range. Here's another sensory that I have paired up with another SLX DC, a little bit heavier line on this one, and I just have it set up for a Texas rig with a big 5/0 EWG 7.3 heavy fast sensory series rod. Nice full grip, one of their nicer rods from back in the day. I love the sensory series. They've come out with a bunch of different models since this rod, but I still throw a couple of the sensories and I have them in the lineup for now. I will be making some changes to the lineup in 2025. I have a tube over here with some rods that I've yet to open because I've been saving them to unbox them here on the channel with you. If you're interested in seeing the updates that I'm going to make to this lineup, stick around and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be sure that I bring you guys along for that ride. But here's another one of the heater series rods that I don't have quite as many of, that I don't use quite as often, but for certain specific techniques, this is where it's at. This is the most slept on heater, the 7.5 medium moderate. 7 foot 5 inch, a little bit longer, but medium power. And I specifically created this rod for throwing baits like the Snatch 70, the lipless. This is my lipless heater. I have it paired up with a Corrado 150 HG 7.4 to 1. Love the Corrado 150s. The 150s have the MGL spool in them. Done really well for me. Not my favorite reel on the planet, but I have a couple of them and I do enjoy fishing with them. I had another one of these 7.5s, but I ended up giving it to the kid that mows my yard. Before Christmas time, I saw that he was wearing a Bass Pro Shops hat, and I said, hey, do you like bass fishing? He said yes, but he didn't have a lot of gear, so I gifted him a couple heater series rods, and my other 7.5 medium is one of the ones that I ended up giving away to him. I was happy to do it, so I'm only left with the one for now, but this is my lipless heater. I also love throwing the Cloud9 C6 smaller medium diver crankbaits, as well as the Curve 55. This does really well for longer length, medium power, parabolic bend, loading up deep. It's a nice lighter cranking rod, but really the thing I throw the most on here is the lipless baits. That Snatch 70 and Rainbow Red. The Duke 55 is another killer option. Love that 7.5 medium mod heater. This is the most slept on heater. Don't sleep, especially if you like throwing a lipless crankbait. You will love this rod for the lipless if you try it out. Let's keep it rolling though. I got a lot more, much more. All right, now speaking of that sensory series, This is one that I've grown to really love. I don't have a bait tied onto it right now, but this is the 7.7 Heavy Fast Sensory SLX DC reel, and the bait that I love throwing on this, though I really love throwing this bait on a few different rods. You'll probably hear me talk about it again, but the 7.7 Heavy Fast Sensory is a great bait for the 6-inch trace. The multi-joint swim bait on this, pair this up with a bull shad, that 7-foot 7-inch length just allows this rod to load up great. And I really love throwing a little bit bigger, maybe some would refer to this as like a medium profile multi-jointed swim bait. 7.7 Heavy Fast Sensory series with the trace, the original 6-inch trace, dialed, absolute money. So if you're looking for something that you can throw a mid-sized multi-joint on, maybe even some other swim baits on, like maybe a little mid-sized crank down like that doobie right there, the 7.7 Heavy Fast Sensory. I love this rod. It's one of my favorite out of the entire Sensory series lineups. Again, SLX DC reel 7.2 to 1 on the gear ratio. Love this setup. Just one of the one-offs that I have in my lineup that will not be going anywhere. The last Sensory that we'll be talking about in this video is this one right here. It's another 7.3 Heavy Fast, and I like throwing jigs on this rod. That's it, man. Straight up, it's a jig heater. Another Corrado 150 MGL, 7.4 to 1, a little bit heavier line, 7.3 Heavy Fast. That's a jig rod right there, man. I got a little finesse jig, heavier half-ounce finesse jig tied on right there with the new Congo craw. And yeah, that's just something that I don't do quite that often, is drag a jig around. It's just not something that I'm very confident in, not something that I've ever had much success with. But I know for a fact that people out there dominate with the jig. And if you're a jig fisherman, this right here is a killer option for you. That Sensory 7.3 Heavy Fast, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one. Pretty much speaks for itself. All right, let's move on to the next rod in the heater series lineup. This is the 7.5 Heavy Fast. And this one right here is another one that's pretty dang versatile. I use this for a lot. Everything from heavy Texas rigs and jigs to frogging, topwater, smaller glide baits like this right here. This is the Draw 6.5 from 6 Sense Fishing. Love throwing the smaller draw on this rod. Works great. Plenty of power, plenty of backbone. Got it paired up with the Shimano Corrado DC, the original DC reel, the reel that really got me like going down the Shimano rabbit hole. Started out on these, man, I just fell in love with the DC technology. Something that I've moved away from here lately, and I do prefer the conventional style reels, but the DC tech and the original Corrado DC, we're just blowing everybody's mind. Everybody out there playing laser tag, and this rod right here is a lot of fun, especially to throw that little mid-tier, smaller size glide bait on. You hook up with this, man, it's so much fun. But the thing that I use it the most for, this right here, man, the plopper, the prop style bait. Straight braid, another Corrado DC. These are 7 to 1s. And that's the Whopper Plopper 110 and Monkey Butt. Something that I'm looking forward to playing around with on this setup is the new Scramble from 6 Sense. 6 Sense's prop style bait. This is my 7.5 Heavy Fast top water heater. Straight up 50-pound braid. I also use this for frogging. Love the 7.5 Heavy Fast heater. I had 4 of them, but I ended up giving one of those away as well. Shout outs to Aiden for mowing my yard. Here, really quickly, is the original prototype 7.5 Heavy Fast heater that I have since retired because I really don't want to break it, but I figured I'd show it to you guys anyway. So the 7.5 Heavy Fast heater, my favorite thing to throw on this is the 110 size Whopper Plopper, medium size Whopper Ploppers, or frogging, heavy jigs, heavy Texas rig, bottom contact, you know, just a good old heavy fast rod. Little bit of length to it, 7.5, killer setup, power hour with the 7.5 Heavy Fast heater series. Man, if you guys are enjoying this full rod and reel lineup breakdown video, go down below and click that thumbs up button for me. Subscribe to the channel. We're ripping our way to 93K, but I can't do it without you. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, talking fishing rods and fishing reels today. Let me know what your favorite rod and favorite bait that you see in this video is. If you have a heater series rod, or if you have any of these rods yourself, I would love to hear from you. So let me know down in the comments. Let's keep it rolling. I have a bunch more rods over here to look at. Yes, overkill is underkill. All right, a couple one-offs for you. This right here is the only Team 6 rod that is currently in my lineup. This is the Team 6 series from 6th Sense Fishing. It's got this full carbon wrapped handle. This is a 7.7 heavy fast. Got it rigged up with straight 65-pound braid. And I throw the plopper 130 on that, the bigger whopper plopper. I feel like the largest whopper plopper, or I think they have a 170, but the biggest one that I throw is the 130. This right here is the Sooner color that I don't believe they make anymore, but that's my favorite color. I caught the biggest plopper fish ever, I think, in my life on this color. And the 130 just makes that signature whopper plopper plop, 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 plop. And this right here is the setup that I used to throw. A 7.7 heavy fast. A lot of length. You can load up and bomb this thing out there. I like getting the whopper plopper really far away from the boat, making that commotion. They just come up and smash it. And that's the setup that I use right there, the 7.7 heavy fast Team 6. I also run a swivel and a split ring on the front of my plopper to try to keep that braid from getting all twisted up. It still gets twisted up, as you might be able to see there. But that's my other plopper setup for the bigger plopper right there. That 7.7 heavy fast Team 6. And this is another Corrado DC right there, man, with that 7 point. Oh wait, that's an 8.5 to 1 on the gear ratio. The 8.5 to 1 is really good for like frogging, bottom contact. You need to take up a lot of line really quick and set up a big deep hook set, or for throwing glide baits, which we'll talk about in a minute once we get to the swim bait setups. But that right there, man, that's my big plopper setup, the 7.7 heavy fast Team 6. If I'm misspeaking and saying the wrong words at some point, I apologize. I'm trying to keep this all straight in my head. This right here is another one-off though. This is the Mag Heavy Made in USA series from 6th Sense. The 6th Sense USA series. I forget what they call it on the website exactly, but this is my Mag Heavy Heavy Fast. Got it set up with a 1/2 ounce tungsten bullet weight, big, heavy, stout, wide gap hook with the PB&J stroker craw. I use this for bed fishing a lot. When bed fishing rolls around and I'm throwing a stroker craw into a bed, this is the setup that I use. Corrado DC 20-pound fluorocarbon, 7.4 to 1 on the gear ratio. And that's just like my heavy Texas rig setup. Just a little bit of a nicer rod, nicer components. USA blank. And that's the Mag Heavy 7-foot 4-inch heavy fast USA series from 6th Sense. One of my nicer rods. I really like this setup. Don't use it too often, but when bed fishing rolls around, it's always on deck. This and one other one that we're going to talk about here in just a second. So we went heavy there. That was the Mag Heavy. Now we're going to talk about some of my lighter stuff. Here's my spinning setups, guys, which I have a few of, but I don't use near as often as I use the power stuff. The bait casters, that's just the type of fisherman that I am. I've been trying to get better at the finesse stuff. That's why I've branched out and invested in more nicer spinning reels like this Shimano Naski or Noski, however you pronounce it. I don't know, but I have this one paired up with another Made in USA, the 6th Sense USA series. This is a 7-foot medium power spinning rod. I use braid to fluorocarbon on all of my spinning setups. It's a 10-pound braid to 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, I believe it is. And I actually have this one paired up right now with a little clobber minnow crappie setup. I was throwing at some fish that I weren't sure if they were bluegill or some crappie. So it actually did all right, but it's really great for throwing the really light stuff. Single swimmers. This is the setup that I pick up when I want to throw something that's like feather light. So that's that setup, spinning setup number 1, 7-foot medium USA series with the Shimano Naski. That's probably the nicest. That is the nicest spinning reel that I own, and that is the C2000S model number on that spinning reel. Next up, talk about this one right here. This is the 7-foot medium fast action spinning heater. This is the most recent released rod in the heater series lineup, the spinning heater. Have it paired up with a Shimano Sedona 2500 size reel, again 10-pound braid to 8-pound fluorocarbon leader, and this is my drop shot setup. So I have this little 6th Sense drop shot hook, 6th Sense tungsten drop shot weight, and I have the little mini panorama rigged up on there right now. And out of all 3 of the spinning setups that I have on the boat, this is probably the one that I pick up the most. I have the most confidence in the drop shot when it comes to the super finesse type techniques. Something that I probably have the least confidence in is this one right here, the Ned rig, but I do have a Ned rig setup. It's another 7-foot medium fast spinning heater paired up with the Shimano Sahara C3000. And again, 10-pound braid, 8-pound fluorocarbon. It's a little Ned rig with the Divine Ned football head right there from 6th Sense. And man, if you guys see me throwing this one, just turn around and go the other way because it's a rough day. This is something that I don't use that much, but I know how important it is to not only branch out and use techniques that you may not be that confident in, but to have something super finesse at the ready. And I just, I'm well aware of the benefits of having a Ned rig around when you just need to get a bite. So I do have this. I do keep this ready to go at all times. And those are the 3 spinning setups. If it requires a spinning rod, I'm going to use one of those 3 to get it done. I'm trying to move this along. Hopefully you guys are still with me. Let's keep it rolling. I do have this reel right here that was gifted to me from my buddy Brian. So I will have 4 spinning heaters at the ready eventually. Like I said, stick around if you want to see the updates that we're going to make to this lineup. But for right now, this is where it's at. I've got it pretty dialed. Anything you want, we got it. Anything you want to do, do it. Let me know what movie that's from. Let's keep it rolling. All right, we're going to talk about this one really quick, and we're going to get into the fun stuff, the big baits, the Swimbait setups. This right here is my big, deep cranking setup. The 8-foot heavy Mod Fast Lux series. One of my favorite rods that 6th Sense has ever created. Before I had the heater series, the Lux series was my favorite. I love the Lux rods, and the 8-foot heavy Mod Fast, along with one other that we will talk about here in just a second. I absolutely love them. This one's paired up with an SLX DC 6.3-to-1, 12-pound fluorocarbon, and a big, deep Cloud 9 C20 in that beautiful blue chartreuse deep crankbait. This thing right here is awesome for throwing big, heavy, deep diving crankbaits. 8-foot rod, Mod Fast, super parabolic. I have so much fun fishing with this. And when you hook into a fish on a deep diving crankbait on a setup like this right here, it's just so much fun. I don't know that there's anything that I have more fun doing than catching fish on a crankbait. I mean, it's right up there with top water, if not above top water, if that even makes sense. I just love throwing a deep plug, and this is my favorite setup to do it with right here. 8-foot rod, big deep diver on a 6-to-1 reel. Gotta love it. That right there is too much fun. All right, guys, let's start talking about the big baits, the Swimbait setups. I have 8 Swimbait setups right here in front of me. It's so hard to keep these things clean out here in the garage. So they've collected a little debris. There's some debris on that one. All right, let's get that cleaned off. Okay, so like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 setups right here that I'm gonna talk to you. This is the big stuff, guys. Really quick, let's get this one out of the way. We talked a minute ago about deep cranking, and this is one setup that I do bounce back and forth between using it for swim baits and deep cranking. This is the 711 medium heavy Mod Fast Lux series rod. Again, I love the Lux series, and this is probably my favorite out of all the Lux series rods, the 711 medium heavy Mod Fast. And I use this rod for a few different things. The first I throw the trace on a few different setups, and this is another one that I use to throw this bait. I will also use this rod for throwing my... How does this happen, dude? I also like to use this rod for throwing rats, like this Buka rat right here, 711 medium heavy Mod Fast, really parabolic, good for the treble hook swim baits, as well as deep diving crankbaits. This is an excellent deep cranking rod. Have this one specifically paired up with a Shimano Corrado 200 HG 7.4-to-1. I like turning and burning when I'm cranking. I feel like it's easier to slow down than it is to speed up. And I use this rod a lot for throwing the trace, and I like a 7-to-1. So that's what I use this setup right here for. A few different techniques get tied onto this one. That's why I don't have anything tied onto it right now. But best believe this is one that I always have at the ready. The 711 medium heavy Mod Fast. Medium heavy, moderate. Did I say Mod Fast? This is a moderate action rod, not Mod Fast. Parabolic goodness, dude. Love this setup for a multitude of the treble hook style baits. Cranking, mid-tier swim baits, even something like a Chad Shad, a smaller glide. I'll throw this little FOM crank down on it. Anything that isn't too heavy, this right here, I love it. And I have another one right here. Speaking of the Chad Shad, this one I have paired up with an 8.5 to 1 Corrado DC. That higher gear ratio that I talked about makes it really easy to chop the Chad, and the 711 medium heavy mod is dialed for throwing the Chad Shad. So that right there is my medium, smaller glide bait setup right there. You could also throw the smaller draw on this, but that's my glide bait setup. 8.5 to 1 Corrado DC, 20-pound fluoro. Chopping, son, on that 711. Fire. All right, let's keep it moving. The last Lux series that we're going to talk about today is another 8-foot heavy mod fast. I've got it paired up with the Tranks 200. This is another one of my favorite reels. I love the Tranks reels. This is a 7.2 to 1, and as you can see, I have the Trace 7 1/4, the bigger multi-joint from 6 cents paired up with this one. Again, 20-pound fluorocarbon. Throwing this bigger Trace on the big 8-foot mod fast rod. That's just too much fun right there. Loads up great, keeps them pinned on the trebles, and that Tranks reel can handle the heavier baits. That 7 to 1 gear ratio, 20-pound straight fluorocarbon. That's a lot of fun right there. I love throwing a multi-joint, and I have multiple setups for throwing a multi-joint, including but not limited to that one and this one right here. This is the 6 cents broomstick rod. Also great for throwing big heavy glide baits like the full size draw, but I just happen to have another one of those Trace 7 1/4 tied on right now. I have it paired up with a Shimano Scorpion DC, 20-pound fluorocarbon. Again, the 6 cents broomstick. You can throw up to 4+ ounce baits. It's a 710 extra heavy swim bait banger, full grip. Awesome. Awesome for throwing big glides, big multi-joints, big swim baits. The broomstick is the only broomstick that I have, but I've been loving it a lot, especially for throwing that big 7 1/4 inch Trace multi-joint. It's another one of my swim bait setups right there. Speaking of throwing the big glide baits, this is the 6 cents USA Custom Series Mag Glide. This is a big bait rod designed for baits up to 8 ounces. And I have the full size draw tied on right now with the Corrado 300 on the reel. 25-pound fluorocarbon, 300 HG, 6.8 to 1 is the gear ratio on that 300. I haven't used this one in a while. Got a little bit of dust accumulating on the handle of this big full grip, the Mag Glide 6 cents USA Custom Series with that draw in the Corrado 300. It's not something that I use very often. I'm not quite as confident with this setup, but I do have it, and it is dialed for throwing the big heavy glide baits like that right there. If I was gonna throw this Buka Glide or this Hinkle Shad, that's the setup that I would use to do it. But wait, there's more. Speaking of swim baits, speaking of heaters, speaking of Scorpion DC reels, the 7/8 extra heavy fast heater series swim bait special. I just got this one laced up. This is another reel that was gifted to me. Got the Scorpion DC on there, got the upgraded reel handle on there. Need to get it re-spooled with some straight fluorocarbon line, but I use this rod for a lot of stuff. I throw the smaller Trace, the 6 inch Trace, the big Trace. I'll throw the draw on here. It's rated for baits up to 5 ounces. This is also the setup that I use for like heavy bed fishing. When I'm fishing for a double digit, this is the rod that I use right here. I'll get it paired up with one of those Corrado DCs in the 8.5 to 1 that I showed you with that 25-pound fluorocarbon, and I will crank down and jaw jack a mega with this meat stick right here. I caught the biggest fish of my life, 10 pounds, 12 ounces on the 7/8 extra heavy swim bait special. It's not just for swim baits, it's a killer heavy flipping, heavy punching rod. I was throwing the sweep swim bait, the paddle tail soft swim bait on this when I caught my biggest fish ever. And I love this rod for not just swim baits, but heavy Texas rigging, heavy bed fishing, heavy punching and flipping, heavy cover style. It's just an all-around meat stick. The 7/8 extra heavy fast action swim bait special, one of the newest out of the entire heater series lineup, and one that I'm really proud of. I know a lot of you out there really love this rod, and I have 2 of them on deck right now. Just need to get a reel for this one because I've been moving stuff around a little bit. But those are 2 that stick around all the time right there. Those are my Swimbait heaters. All right, we're getting close now. I have another Swimbait rod right here to show you guys. This one is another one of the USA Custom Series. This is a 711 heavy, multi-purpose, heavy action rod. I have it paired up with another Tranx. Like I said, I love the Tranx, so I have a couple of them. This one is a 6.2 to 1 gear ratio. Again, I think this is 17-pound fluorocarbon, a little bit lighter line, and I have a doobie crank down tied onto that right now. It's just another multi-purpose, all-around, nice parabolic rod with a full grip and a beefier reel that can handle a little bit heavier stuff. Love this setup right here, and it's one that I always have at the ready, but I haven't been fishing too much lately. Probably need to do some more of that. Maybe I'll move this reel. I do switch these up from time to time, and I'll take this reel and put it on another one of the rods in the lineup, kind of reconfigure things as needed. But this right here is another just really nice swim bait setup, and that rounds out all the big bait stuff right there. Now, I did promise you guys that I was going to show you the one rod out of my entire lineup that wasn't from 6th Sense, and here it is right now. It's a Dobbins. It's the Dobbins BFS Sierra SUF 700C 7-foot light mod action extra fast tip ultra finesse casting rod. This is my BFS setup. I have a little tiny ChatterBait micro tied on there, and I've been having a lot of fun doing the BFS stuff. This is a Corrado BFS 8.2 to 1 on the gear ratio. This is really light. I think 6-pound fluorocarbon that I have on there. And like I said, this is the only rod out of my entire lineup that's not a 6th Sense rod, and that's only because 6th Sense does not make a BFS rod currently yet. And I have something really exciting to talk to you guys about in a future video on that topic right there. But that is my entire current rod and reel arsenal. The full lineup, you guys just saw it. Now, that's not every single rod that I own. I have a stack of rods over there in the corner. They're just not currently in rotation. If you've seen my full rod and reel arsenal videos in the past, you probably noticed that some of those rods are missing, but that right there that I just showed you, that's what I'm currently running. That's what I'm currently using out there on the water. Please let me know if you enjoyed the video. Click that thumbs up button to show your support. Help more people find this video. If you have any specific questions on baits, techniques, if I missed anything, I tried to cover it all, but we were moving quick, and I'm sure I messed up a couple details and left some stuff out. I'll make sure I get to all your questions down below in the comments if you drop them. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in seeing the updates that we make to the lineup in the future. I have some more exciting stuff, some new products that are just now hitting store shelves from 6th Sense that I'm going to show you in the next video. Subscribe to the channel, stick around. Shout outs to 6th Sense Fishing for being super supporters of what I do and for helping me create not only some of the best fishing rods that I've ever used, but the entire heater series lineup. They're awesome. You guys check out 6thsensefishing.com for the heater series and all the rods that I showed you and all the baits that I showed you in this video. JR10 for 10% off your entire order. Shout outs to our channel members who support this channel on a monthly basis that help us keep the lights on and the cameras rolling so that we can continue bringing free fishing content to everybody here on YouTube. Those are the names that you see scrolling across the screen right now. Much love to those legends, but that's about all I got for you today. That about does it. That about wraps her on up. So I'm gonna say goodbye for now, and I will see you on the next one. Woo! That was crazy.